What is going on, guys? Welcome to the Wednesday night live stream. Mr. Robert, how the heck are you, buddy?
I'm doing well, Devin. Thanks for having me on, man.
Excellent. Always good to have you.
Yep.
So tonight, kind of random reef chat, Q&A. So if you guys got any reefing questions, fire them at us. Whatever you got, bring it on.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. What's going on? Ben, Shelly, Rob, Port Wolf, what's going on, guys? Hopefully everyone's having a wonderful thing. How about the BRS Dream Tank? That actually does look pretty sweet.
Yeah, man. It's awesome. This is like the one time I wish I didn't work at BRS.
Are you excluded because you're an employee? Probably.
Yeah, of course. Of course. I mean, don't get me wrong, man. I'm a spoiled reefer for sure. This is as spoiled as you are. But, yeah, man, it's crazy. Like, every year it just gets bigger. And, like, you know, it's funny because, you know, like, I don't know, it started a while back, but, like, you know, Ryan started really getting crazy with Black Friday stuff, like giveaways and all kinds of, you know, community appreciation stuff. And just like every year we got to outdo ourselves last year, you know? So it's like, it just keeps growing,
every year gets
man.
bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, man. So like, and your guys' end of things, I mean, shoot, God, 5 years from now, what it could be like, you know?
You never know.
But it's crazy. I mean, it's super exciting, man. There's going to be one lucky dude out there, or dudette.
Yeah.
That. You know, it reminds me, so years back at Marine Depot, we did I think I called it the tech tank giveaway or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it was, I want to say it tallied $15,000. That's, you know, just retail cost of the equipment. And we gave it away at MACNA.
Yeah.
That was really cool because it went to a teacher.
Oh, that's cool.
So,
nice.
Yeah, it was really neat. But this was like early days of the new Apex. And, you know, we decked it out with all like sort of the original generation of the Apex stuff. And so it was fun. But now, I mean, gosh, $65,000.
It would be hard to spend that much. Like, you would have to try.
Oh, Devin, you don't know. We just don't keep tally, man. We just don't keep track of what we spend.
I guess.
Yeah.
But all at once, I don't know. I guess maybe you could, but I still feel like it'd be hard.
Oh man, it would be a tough pill to swallow for sure. Yeah. But
so
no, it's cool. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff on there. Like if you really step back and think about it, like how much of that would you buy right out of the gate? So say you had a budget, or an open budget, and it, you know, buying like what you think you need or not, you know, what would you buy out of that list, you know?
That's fair. I mean, most people don't need all of it, but sweet if you get it.
Yeah,
right?
that's the thing. And what's cool too, said person's gonna be able to learn a lot. So if they're, you know, a beginner reefer or just starting out or something, like all of that equipment's gonna force you to learn, you know, some really cool stuff, you know, how to use it all. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah. Insta everything. So speaking of that, Black Friday's around the corner. Anything on your wish list? Anything
on my wish list?
Yeah, is there anything you need for the tank?
You know, my wish list is your dogs open the door behind you.
I know. There's no stopping them. It's like
it's totally human.
Yeah.
My wish list, dude. My wish list is on me. Like I just need to set up that damn auto water change.
Yep.
Tank's going great. I started learning or teaching myself how to use the Versa pumps and mapping out the plumbing. So I've got most of like the John Guest fittings and little plumbing that I need. Where I'm kind of stuck. I know this. We've been talking about this for like 2 years, but I don't. So the water change station, like the actual water station, it's technically right next to the tank. So I've got two brute cans, two 20 gallons, and I want to, you know, they're vertically stacked. And so I think what I really just need to do is bite the bullet and build a rack for them. So, you know, I can have one on top of the other. Because right now the way it is they are stacked, but it's like a desk. It's like an old desk.
Okay.
And it works. I mean, it's the part where you would like slide a chair in for, you know, for sitting on a desk. Like the can sits under there. I have my ATO chamber under there as well. Plus a couple salt buckets. So it's nice to have the space, and it matches the stand. So it looks like it doesn't look out of place. But I have to start drilling through that desk and like make it permanent. So that's kind of what I'm worried about.
Bust out the whole saw. Just get her done.
I know, and that's the thing. And there's also the hitch too. Like the wall that it's on is like a faux like brick, sort of like I don't know the right name for it, but it's like bricks are glued onto the concrete wall.
Yeah, like a facade.
Yeah, like a facade. There you go. And so that makes it difficult to mount things. So like what I really want to do is channel all this RO tubing along the walls. And I think what I'll end up doing is dropping it down and run it on the corner
Yep.
of the floor,
Right along the
and run
baseboard.
run it on the baseboard because I got to run the drain outside.
Yep.
I got my line from my freshwater line over from the RO system, so that was good. That's been that way for a while. So mixing and water changes, honestly, right now, because the tank's only 40 gallons, it's not that much of a pain in the ass, and I don't have a lot of livestock, so I don't have the fire lit yet for, the frequent water change thing, because I can get away with 3-4 weeks easy. I just don't have a lot of livestock, and I've got macroalgae in there too, so the tank sustains pretty well.
Yeah. So you don't need it, but it's nice to have.
Yeah, coral's doing great.
Nice.
Finally started getting coral and algae because it's really strange, so we can talk about this, but so I had to take up since February. And I kind of always thought to myself, like, why isn't coral and algae? And every time I test, things are good. I'm using the Tropic Marine Classic salt, which, has higher parameters right out of the bucket. So I really started dabbling in alkalinity because I wanted to make sure because that was the only thing that I saw drop a little bit between the water changes, like a 3-4 week period. But anyway, long story short, for a couple weeks, I was using sodium carbonate. I was just putting it in the top off water. I got some kalkwasser. I experimented with that for a week, but I didn't really like it because it was just annoying to use it, and I had to mix it separate from my top off. I had to kind of get down there, and I had to do it slow because I didn't want to do it, have a huge pH spike. So I had to pay attention too much.
Yeah.
So then I got the 2-part. I got B-Ionic, the good old go-to stuff, man. I'm doing that every other day, and I mean, within 7 days, man, coral and algae started popping up all over the back wall. Yeah, so I don't know if it's like maybe some of the trace that's in there. See, I'm dosing trace elements too, though, so that wouldn't make sense. Well, my point being is...
No, but you just said you're dosing ESV, which has trace elements mixed in.
No, I understand, but I guess my point is why wasn't it growing before, and now it is? But the parameters were pretty stable. I was just seeing a small, alkalinity drop. And I mean, relative calcium, but nothing that would, it never dropped below, 380. It was, would water change above 400, 3-4 weeks later, and I'm down at 380, maybe 350. Fine. Right. So it's still within range, and wouldn't be anything alarming to where I would say, oh, well, you just, you need to keep your carbonate and calcium up. But hey, whatever, it's happening. Coral and algae is growing.
Tanks settling in, it's a good sign.
Yeah, man. There is some bubble algae in there. It's kind of a bummer, but I put an emerald crab in there in March, April, May, I think. So maybe, I haven't seen him though. Peppermint shrimp are doing a great job. There was a couple Aptasia that came in on some macro, and they seem to be annihilating it because I'm not, I had 3 or 4 Aptasia throughout. Now they're gone.
You see the tank beside me, I have hundreds.
Do you still have any birdias?
Yeah, there's some in there. I saw a couple babies.
Oh, there's
so
some in there?
They're breeding. I mean, there is a wrasse and a copper band in there, so it's possible they're picking some off. But in the sump, I saw some wee ones and some big ones. And in the big tank, I've spotted a fairly tiny one the other day, so you must have been one that hatched in there. So fingers crossed that they're will eventually take over. I kind of want to just redo the tank, but at the same time, I have a couple $100 of Bergie I put in there, so I don't really want to just want them to do their thing and recover my corals that are hiding under all that Aptasia. So hopefully. Yeah. I
do want wish list. I do want some livestock. I guess that's what I need more than anything. I want a clam. I thought I'd order the clam. I got a friend of mine that was going to send me anemones. I just kind of have to bite the bullet on that one. So I talked to him before Halloween. I had a buddy come visit from California on Halloween, which is great. It was super awesome. He's my best bud. Haven't seen him in a while, so it was nice to spend time with him and his baby.
Nice.
And then after that, we were busy at work. It was just one of those things. And then Black Friday hit me at BRS. So I've just been super busy, man. And that really, man, I am so sour about that shipment that FedEx lost and was 2 days late.
I'm
scared. Oh my God, I'm so scared, man. I'm scared to order anything. And I mean, not for the end of anybody sending me corals. This is a good dude. He's a friend of mine, and I hate for anything to happen. And it's just one of those things, man. I just have to build the confidence again. I mean, you get burned once, and it really just puts a bad taste in your mouth. I've been fortunate. Hundreds of boxes of livestock ordered in the last, 20 years, and nothing's ever happened. And, the one time where it's crutch. Maybe, it's a good idea.
Let's go pick
out
it up.
Here in the Midwest, I know ORA. I'm not sure how far ORA is. don't even know if they let me go in there, but that would be a fun one.
That'd be cool to do.
Yeah,
Okay.
or go down to Florida. There's plenty of spots.
Oh,
in
so
Florida.
many down there. Okay, a couple of questions from the chat before I forget about them. So Lewis, I started carb dosing Tropic Marin symbiotic salt, and it's working way too good. Always removing all of my phosphates. What would be the best way to go to a different salt? Honestly, there's nothing special to switching salts. People always stress out about it. I wouldn't do like 100% water change. Like, there's no need to do anything drastic. Just start doing smaller water changes with the new salt, or just, if you have a 100-gallon tank and you do 5 or 10-gallon water changes every week, just start using the new salt, and it's just going to change over time. So,
yeah, it'll be a gradual change naturally because you're doing partial water changes.
Yeah.
So the only rule is don't just change your entire tank out with new salt abruptly, and you should be fine. I haven't heard of anybody having problems like weaning off the symbiotic. I haven't used that stuff, but I believe it has probiotics and things in the salt directly. So I don't think you'll have any negative effects. I mean, you could always call Lou at Tropic Baron, but I'm going to say 9.5% positive.
Yeah, just start using whatever other one.
Yeah, you won't have any issues coming off of it.
Or if you wanted,
but you can. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, or if you wanted, some of the carbon dosing aspects still, you could just mix that and another one together and just do your own little blend.
I wouldn't mix salt, but
It works. I have.
It works. Yeah, it works. That said, what you could do alternatively is, I know the stuff that Tropic Baron puts in symbiotic, they sell as an additive separately. There's a powder. I will get the name of it for you. I actually dose it in my tank, and it's like a weekly, just like a little, like half a teaspoon. So you can switch off your salt, and then you can still sort of control the level of carbon dosing that you have. And the Tropic Baron approach to carbon dosing is actually really neat. Of all the ones out there, I feel like they are the most honest about it because they approach it as like a coral feeding, and it's just different. It's not like this is a nutrient removal method. They approach it in a unique way, which is nice. What is this stuff called?
But if you guys do want to do that, I actually had Lou from Tropic Marin on probably last summer with like some awesome live streams talking about all the different methods of carbon dosing. So if it is something you still want to do, you definitely check out that stream because he kind of goes over, which scenarios to use, which different products to carbon dosing, which is a really good
one. They have the Bacto Balance, I think is what it's called, or Bioactive. There's two of them.
Both are names I've heard.
Oh, it's the same thing. Bioactive,
okay.
Bacto Balance. Okay, yeah, it's the same thing. So that's their sort of all like inclusive carbon dosing additive, and so yeah, man, you can just change your salt and then use that and just cut back on how much of that you're using, in combination with maybe adding nutrients and stuff if you want to see some in there.
No, exactly. Now the other option is keep using the same salt and just do smaller water changes. If it's removing all your nutrients, do you need to be doing big water changes? Probably not. So that might even be simpler. It's just
we probably talked ourselves into an answer that was too complex.
Cut your water changes in half until your nutrients creep up, and then you can just adjust how much water change you do to keep them there.
And if you're not having to change frequently for like element reasons, I would just cut back on that and
simpler answer.
hang tight, observe the corals if they do great and they're fine and nutrients good, just run with it.
All right, Daryl, I have green turf algae on the rocks, tried Reflux RX, didn't help with that. What should I try next? PO4, 0, NO3, 20 NO3. Okay, so no PO4 can lead to weird things. Most likely, the algae on your rocks is sucking it up, so it just looks like it's 0. It depends what type of algae it is. Turf algae, I would probably physically just remove it if you can and just like suck it out the water change hose. Turn off your flow and then spot treat it with H2O2, so hydrogen peroxide, 3%. Generally 1 mil per 10 gallons per day type of thing is a safe amount. So if it's a 40-gallon tank, you can use 4 mils a day. But do that for a few days, and that will kill off the algae at the root, and it will stop coming back. That's probably what I would do. I've done that before in my Nano when I had, just to kill off spots of it, and it completely worked. So that's kind of how I would take care of it. But you do want to get your phosphates above 0 because 0 is bad. It'll mess with things, not being out of balance.
Yeah. Generally speaking, reflux biopsis treatment directly. Also, too, so it takes, sometimes it takes a while. There is that additive, and I don't know how well it works on turf algae, but that is an option.
Yeah, reflux or fluconazole, it will work. I have seen it completely take out hair algae and other stuff, but I believe it was at a double dose, and I believe I let it for about 2 weeks before a water change. So it might just need more of it for longer. Or use the hydrogen peroxide, pick some up at the dollar store, it's cheap. Might be a solution.
So that's what I was thinking, is how long were you using the reflux or the fluconazole?
Other option, creatures to eat it. You know, you got your turbo snails and you got pink cushion urchins. Those guys love eating like hair algae and turf algae and stuff. They do a fantastic job. I remember I had a little pink and whitish pink cushion urchin before when I shallowed reef tank, and I put him in my sump for a while because it was just like full of nasty. After like a week or two, my sump looked like spotless, like brand new. Like I did an awesome job. So they're really good. Blaine, any advice for a 6-gallon tank? It's a little tank. Stability is a big thing. Definitely make sure you have an ATO. The nice thing about little tank is you could do like 2 or 3 gallon weekly water change and reset. Everything's going to stay in line. So as long as you have a little heater to keep your temp in line and keep your evaporation off, I mean, that's pretty easy. I would almost put a lid on it or do something to just reduce evaporation in the first place and make it pretty easy for you. Planet 3D, thoughts on mixing BTA, bubble tip, and anemone species in the same tank? I've never had an issue mixing anemones personally, so
that should be fine as long as they're true bubble tips. I think it'll be all right.
Yep. So I'd say mix away. In my experience,
I mean, I've seen them side by side, like greens and reds, and yeah, there wasn't issues. I mean, I don't know. I kept multiple BTAs, but they were just all like sister anemones, like the mother just split, and I had a bunch in the same tank. And the tanks that I've seen multiples, yeah, they were brothers. There wasn't like, what I'm getting at is like, I don't know if one that's just dominant will take over and like choke them out. So you might if you're trying to propagate or like where you're just letting them run wild, I would certainly keep an eye on all of them to make sure you don't lose a particular one just to be choked out, or you might have to move them around or something. But they won't sting each other yet or anything like that.
Yeah, they're pretty happy. Like I've had even rock flowers up by the ones. Like I've had all kinds of random ones touching, and none of them overly seem to care. More than anything, they might just like move over top of one of them and steal their light type of things. Usually the worst case scenario. Right. Aussie Dan, what are the effects of high phosphates on zoas? Can't say I've noticed anything. In my experience, those are pretty hardy, and I've had them in low and high, and I honestly don't think I've noticed a big difference either way.
What do you say, high phosphate on zoanthids?
Yeah, on zoas.
I've noticed coloration differences in between like low nutrient and higher nutrient situations. Can't say I've had anything like noticeable though. You can get kind of different growth formations, or like where their skirts get a little bigger, they puff up a little, but it's with zoanthids, it's so minor. I think the biggest thing you might notice in situations is different colorations, but that's more pronounced with lighting from my experience. In different lighting scenarios, like I've got one high and one low in the tank, you'll see a difference in the coloration between those two. But yeah, that's all I got for you.
I agree. Another thing you'll notice too with a lot of zoas, if they're in low light, they'll either have bigger heads or they could be like stretching out more. And and if they're in like
do that.
High light, high flow, they'll generally be smaller heads and more compact. So you definitely notice a bit of a growth pattern, but that's more lighting and flow than phosphates.
Pallies will really stretch since the stalks aren't on the central mat, so they're in low light, they'll really stretch up, and they look kind of funny when they grow like that.
Yep. All right, Lewis, my 20-gallon cube is overgrown, no more room for coral. We've all been there. Upgrading to a water box 50.3 AIO. Sweet. Any tips? Okay, so when moving and everything, first thing, I always like to use new sand when I move stuff, just because it takes ages to clean it, and by the time you clean it, you kill off all your bacteria anyways. So I would, if you're keeping the same aquascape, get your new tank filled up with water. Just get everything running in it, and then with the new tank and the old tank, do a bit of a water change between the tanks. So every day just take a few gallons and move it over. So as your new tank's settling in, you're equalizing the parameters between your new tank and your old tank, And then once things are, nice and stable, just move your rock and everything over to it. But I would definitely want to use new sand and stuff with it just to not bring over all the nasties. If you're doing a new aquascape, I mean, it's a little trickier then, but you will probably have a little bit of a mini cycle. You won't have a big one because all your rock, and if you have meat in your sump, that stuff will be fine. But you will lose the sand bed stuff, so I tend to like to use something like, Microbacter 7 or Quick Start or Turbo Start or whatever, some form of bacteria, just as like a little bit of a booster to make sure that there's no little mini cycles or anything like that. They'll kind of take care of it for you. But yeah, aside from that, it's a bunch of work, but you'll be good otherwise.
And tank transfer is what you're talking about?
Yeah, basically. Just upgrading the tank. The tank's bare bottom. Oh, there you go. Even less work. It should be good.
Yeah, just keep that rock alive.
Yep. Marine tanks are nice. 20-gallon plants looks cool. Yeah, those are cool. Those and the Lagoon tanks. I don't know why, but I've always wanted the 25 Lagoon. I love that long, shallow one.
That reminds me, Adam Monty. He works on Aspier's TV and the social media for Bulk Resupply. He's got a Lagoon tank, man. He showed me a picture the other day. And, whew, I think it's like a 36 by 36. I don't know what it is, but it was super cool, man. I think it was only 16 inches tall or something like that. Could be way off, but I'm pretty sure it's a Fiji cube. It was just a big Lagoon, man, and that's just such an impressive tank, and you don't see them that often, Just like a giant or a taller frag tank.
Yeah.
So it's like bigger than 12, but not quite 20 inches tall.
Oh, dude, that's so my frag tank is 14, which is like super shallow. I like it, and I'm gonna turn it into a display. It's on my to-do list.
There you go.
Just because I don't really sell frags anyways, and it's fun growing and fragging, but at the same time, I'm like, I want another display. It'll be more fun. So.
This one? Is it a 76? Maybe a 76 gallon? I'll keep looking here. Yeah, I think it might be the 76.
Okay, Marcus, do you bring your DKH up in new salt water before doing your water changes to match the tank? New is only 7.5. What do you keep your DKH at? I keep mine at 8.5. I also only do small water changes. So in the grand scheme of things, it makes very little impact doing it at once. So I personally don't bring it up. If I was going to do, like a 50% water change or a massive water change, then I pay more attention to it. But in general, if you just do, a small percentage, if you're changing 5 gallons out of 100 gallons, it's only going to be a 5% change, right? So it's not that big of an impact. Ooh, got the 105.4 frag. That's a nice tank, 60 inches. Lewis, thank you for the super chat. Thanks for all the content. One of my favorite channels. Thank you very much. Holy crap, it's Robert. Yeah, it is. I'm actually Googling this now. Is Brightwell Neomarine only 7.5? I thought it was more like 8.
What are you talking about?
Oh, yeah,
Alkalinity on Neomarine?
Yeah, it is 7.5.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, if I do daily auto water changes, so realistically, it doesn't overly matter. If you are doing massive water changes, then you want to match the alkalinity. But if you're doing little ones, don't worry about it.
He's talking about matching the alkalinity before he does a water change.
Yeah, okay. Now, caveat. If you are dosing your tank and everything else, you're supplementing it on your own, then, don't worry about it. If you have a Nano and you're relying on water changes for that, then I'd pay a lot more attention to the alkalinity on it. This is big tank talk versus little tank talk.
For sure. And, it's the difference of the purpose you're doing water changes, and that would be a Nano situation where you're changing water strictly for element supplementation, but also nutrient removal. It kind of just depends on how much you're changing,
Mm-hmm. Ooh, I got a new toy to check out soon, which will be fun.
What?
The Focustronics lights, where they have like the pucks that move around. Yeah.
Oh, the movie.
Yeah, Solartronic. Yeah.
Solartronic. Yeah, no, that's neat. I remember seeing a version of those years ago, but they didn't have a motor, so you could just angle them.
No, they did, but they're a little like bulkier and industrial looking.
No, it wasn't Focustronic.
Okay.
I think I'm pretty sure Aquatic Life made them, and you could just angle them.
Mm-hmm.
And then Focustronic. This is the second gen of the movable ones, right?
Yeah. So the first one was more like a can light looking thing, Where the new one is a lot more sleek looking, and it has 2 pucks that move, and they have like built-in like reef bright strips on the side. It looks pretty slick. I haven't actually fully looked at it yet, but I'm gonna play with it the next few days. Maybe I'll do a video on it for next week. But so far it looks cool.
Yeah, it's neat.
Yep.
So curious, like for one, how you control it.
Yep.
And 2, like what would you do with that? Like would you do it, you know?
Well, I only have 1, so it's not enough for any tanks. What I'm gonna do is take out the ones on the sump area, because I have like almost a 2-foot cube area in there, and make like a little mini display down there in my office tank, and I think I'm gonna try it there.
So would you just do like a 12-hour slow move, or would you like just angle it and like just to highlight a certain spot?
I'll tell you next week once I played with it a bunch.
Yeah, I remember the conversation around that. When they first came out, I was like, well, it's neat.
Yeah.
It's cool. But what are we going to do with it?
Well, I think the theory is that since the lights move, you're reducing shadowing, or you're angling at different spots that it normally wouldn't get.
I could see it. Yeah, like I could see, but it's still a single point, because, you know, you're just going to create a shadow in another area. Now, if you have 2 of them, because, like, you know,
because there's
straight down.
2 pucks in them. Yeah, I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah. But it's reminiscent of the metal halide days where you would put them on a track.
Yeah.
And you could do a really cool, like, I've seen them, and I've seen 2 approaches there where you just do a slow 12-hour move, or like two 6-hour moves.
Yeah.
Or you do like, you know, where it goes back and forth a couple times an hour. And that was the one tank that I've seen when it's set up, in person anyway. And that's how he did it, was just constantly moving back and forth. And he lit a 6 to 8 foot, it was an 8-foot tank with a single 400-watt bulb successfully. So like,
crazy.
2 VHOs, maybe he had 4 VHOs, I'm not sure, but you know, the fluorescence through the whole tank, and then the single 400-watt went down the whole thing, when technically you would need 3 bulbs to light that tank.
That's kind of funky.
And I mean, he would grow stuff out of the water, man. He had nems in there and everything.
Yeah. Well, okay. So one thought is, if you had certain coral, or you could more direct it towards like your acros islands and different things, potentially, if you didn't want to move it.
Right.
But the one neater feature, actually, that was kind of, I thought was unique, is that it can adjust your intensity of your lighting up or down based on your nutrients from the auto tester. Because, you know, if you have like higher, brighter light, you know, with more nutrients, or you got to like keep that ratio.
Metabolize more, yeah.
So it can actually ramp them up or down based off like your test results from the auto tester, which is super cool. So there's like some weird stuff like that that's kind of neat, that I don't know, I'm curious to play with.
Yeah, I would be curious to see the other side of like how corals respond to that movement, because that's completely unnatural. So yeah, even because, I mean, it's not like they're moving up or down the water column, you know, when they have more food available. So it would be weird to kind of see how they respond to that, because of changes in lighting, you know. So
time will tell. But yeah, I think it'll be kind of cool. Yeah, no, I'm not concerned about shadowing. There's 2 pucks on there, plus reef bright strips. There's a ton of light onto this thing.
Yeah, the reef bright strips are what's going to fill in those gaps. One point being is, like, you know, you have it's still a single point source light. Now 2 of them make sense, because
there's 2 pucks in one fixture.
Shadowy.
That both move both directions. I don't know. I haven't even opened it yet. This is just what I've watched out of the videos.
Yeah, what you would do is find the best angle to minimize the shadowing in your particular aquascape, and then just keep it there, you know.
I will let you know in a week or 2 once I play.
But moving them too will, you know, take care. You know, it's like you might see the shadow when the light's on the opposite side, but the coral won't get affected by it, because it's going to eventually come over here and light it from that angle.
Yeah,
because it'll be like a you know, a shadow clock, where the shadow just moves with the day. You know, as the light moves, the shadows move, and so there'll be a certain amount of light exposure to the shadowed side as it moves. You know,
it's true. But yeah, I don't know how you test this. But the other one theory is, because you get a lot of reflection off the glass, right? That will like kind of bounce in. So I wonder if you could intensify that to like light undersided corals by bouncing out. Who knows? This is.
Oh yeah, like just point
there's
them
all
like
these random things that I have like ideas of to like. I'm curious.
No, I see. I mean, it's that BRCB test they just did is eye opening in terms of like how much how much the light bounces off the glass.
Yeah. Huge.
That'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, I don't know. Future stuff to play with. So, rubber sundial, exactly.
Sundial, there we go. Shadow clock.
Shadow clock.
That's like my video game name. Shadow clock.
So that's your username, eh? Excited about the new GHL update. I didn't know there is a GHL update. Good to know, Reef Automation. Good to know. Is it already out, or is it something that's coming?
What?
Oh, software update. No. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to find out. Do you have a control on your tank, speaking of? No? You keep it super simple.
Yeah, I mean, so I went into this not wanting a ton of equipment. I got, I intentionally put a filter roller on it. Intentionally put macroalgae in the display, which has really dwindled down from my original plans. Yeah, I have a Gracilaria species in there, and that's it. The ova and the ogo, they just wouldn't anchor. Like, there is one little tough, like, small area of ogo that is growing, but the ova I didn't want to let go because that stuff can get nasty, man. If it anchors into your rocks, it's all over.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I didn't want to do it. I might add clerpa. There is some, like, the tall curly clerpa. That stuff's really neat. So I might. We'll see. I may do that and then just constantly prune it, but I want to have established coral encrusting and on the rocks, and have them established so then I can prune around them, and the clerpa and stuff won't choke it out. So nice. We're getting there,
Random note on clerpa. It has been a few random strands growing in my sump, and I have not introduced it. So it must have been like some shilling on something that was put in there like a year ago, and then finally growed one day. I was like, where did this even come from? So
it's amazing, man. That stuff is
nature finds a way. I don't know.
Yeah, it does find a way.
Super, super crazy.
Oh, controller. Sorry, we got off track there. But so I went into it wanting to be simple, but everything's smart. I mean, you guys know how equipment is these days. Like, the lights are smart, the pumps are smart. So in terms of controlling equipment, you just don't need it. I work from home. I spend my
so good.
Yeah, I spend my days fishing. Somebody's always at my house. My wife's very capable of taking care of the aquarium in my absence. My older kids, like, they know what to look out for. Like, they'll call me if there's a funny noise. So Perfect. We're pretty safe. Yeah, it's safe. The one thing I would like is a constant pH monitor, so I can see, pH swings and relate that to the major elements. And then, water sensors, but I got an oscillator. Power goes off, the sump's plenty big enough to hold it, so something would really just have to go wrong for a mistake to happen. But that would be the only reason is a monitoring safety protocol.
Yep.
So I've had that freaking $200 reef keeper, which I do have a reef keeper, but
bust it out.
It's so dang old, man. I remember last time I calibrated a new pH probe onto it, because I used it 4 years ago now. Was the last time I was using it, because the big thing is it's a pH monitor, which is the coolest part of it. And I calibrated a new probe onto it, and it wouldn't hold the calibration, so it's kind of useless at this point.
Yeah.
I know the timers still work. Like, I used it to turn Christmas lights on the last couple of years, so
Perfect.
that worked.
Repurposing.
Yeah, but the goal there is having that constant pH monitor. Downside, though, you can't really graph it or anything. It's just sort of alive, And I think for my situation, the biggest benefit would not only be the instant live, but to be able to graph it and see historical data. So,
be good.
Yeah, I mean, there's things out there that are, not quite an apex, but I'm sure I'll end up with a controller of some kind. I know the hydro systems they've got the different tiers and different levels, so
yep.
I may look at one of those. But we'll see. I think the world of control is expanding. It's growing. It's getting rapid. There's exciting things to come. Neptune Systems is now in the BRS umbrella of companies. And we're working together to create products. And let me say this: an affordable monitor-only controller like the Reefkeeper is something that we're adamantly. Well, no, I can't do that. I mean, I don't know. I would guess. I would bet money on the fact that it's probably.
That's a yes.
On the drawing board or something that is not too far off. I mean, Neptune Systems, I'm sure they've got a ton of products in the pipeline that are far from this. But I can say that people at BRS really see a value in something like that, and so I wouldn't be surprised if
You'll be back
You know,
for sure.
it's not too long, yeah, before we can develop something like that. But you know, at the same time, there's some pretty good reasons that it doesn't already exist. You know, because at the end of the day, you know, you get a cheap controller like that, and now you're piecemealing an apex together because most people are going to eventually want a full apex at the end, and you end up spending hundreds of dollars more to get the same stuff.
You do, however, it's easy to spend $200, $100 than
dude,
$800 all at once.
I'm a frugal fella, and I'm in that camp, and that's why I want it. I mean, perfect example is my tank. You know, like I would spend money on that pH, having that pH and temp monitor, and having the historical data for it for sure.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I could ask constantly a wish controller. I mean, they're all gonna work. Everyone has their pros and cons. But yeah, so depends what you want out of it. But yeah, for the most part, any one of them is gonna do the job for you.
But now that you guys cursed it and asked me about it, something's gonna probably happen when I'm not around.
Yeah, you'll be fine. Okay.
Yeah.
So speaking of light and coral, I've been contemplating trying this one day, but having a coral that's lit from all sides, or like top and bottom, or like a U shape or something.
Jake did something. Jake Adams of Reef Builders put a coral on a Lazy Susan. Yeah, or on a spinny.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like the coral tree where you hang it like they do coral propagation in the ocean. But having one that actually moves, you know, where the bottom, like the whole aquascape moves, and so you're getting like a 360 view. I guess you'd have the same effect with moving lights.
But similar. Yeah, that's what I mean. Or if you wanted like a static version, if you had a Q tank with lights on either side of it, right?
Yeah.
And then you even hanging coral on like fishing line or something, so it just spins around constantly.
We should do that. We should hang a coral on a fishing line in there. We have to be smart, probably like a circular gyroflow pattern to go around it, so it's not, you know, swinging all over the place.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine that movement. I mean, so I had this conversation, but you know how your SPS, like they generally don't start growing up and out until they encrust?
That's what I mean. They're not wasting energy encrusting.
Well, but you know, like they haven't really evolved to be moved around like that, right? So would it be weird? Would it be stressing them out? I don't know. I want to do it.
When I did some volunteering stuff with like coral restoration, like a year or two ago, all the corals were growing on trees, and they're like PVC trees basically, and they're all hanging off fishing line.
Yeah, it works for them in the ocean.
So that's what I mean. Why in a tank we could try it, but blanketed in light, then it would be not growing towards the light; it'd be growing every direction. This is my theory. I want to try.
So, dude, this could be like freaking coolest frag system of the century, where it's like your rack is above the tank with all the strings hanging in, and then it lights from the 3 bottom sides.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? You just lift it up and you cut off your frag, and they grow like 2 or 3 times the rate.
I know. Someone needs to do this experiment.
We need to build that.
I know. I've been thinking about it.
We need to build it.
Cute tank.
Adaptive Reef, Kyle. Adaptive Reef. You can.
Yeah, just in case he's watching, you never know. But yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be super cool. Like, it'd be a really cool way for growing coral if it works. I mean, you have to clean the glass more often and a few things. But aside from that,
whatever. It's just coral that would be in there. So you know, if you're smart about the way you feed it, and you know how that goes.
Yeah. So super cool experiment. I think it'd be good.
We need to do that, man. You talked me into that. That's a cool idea.
I thought about.
I love the idea of lifting it out, like lifting the coral tree out. Like I love it with all the corals hanging down.
Yeah.
It would grow faster, man.
I think so.
I know it would.
Now, would it grow in like a baseball shape? Would it just be like circle because they're all growing out equally together?
Whatever. You're growing frags. So you just cut them off, glue them, and then put them in a real frag. I mean, whatever. It doesn't matter. If it's growing like big and awesome,
that's all that matters.
I think, yeah, you could just glue it. And I mean, say you put it on an aquascape, and now you've got this perfectly round formed ball. Like the bottom of it's gonna die anyway. You know.
Yeah. Well, realistically, cut off frags and they'd be all random anyway. So.
Yeah, and what do we do with frags? We glue them in the aquascape, and then that's where they take their shape, right?
Yeah, that's true. But anyways, I think that'd be a cool experiment.
I love it.
Yeah.
We have great ideas, then.
I know. We just need
more people should listen to this live stream.
Right? All kinds of good stuff. Top shelf aquatic style. I don't know if Top Shelf does that. I think they have theirs more on like. They have a big PVC structure, and they just like plug them on so they can easily take them out and move them.
My good friend, Mr. Blaine Boone, started working down there recently, so I will call him. I don't know that they'll give away all their secrets, but we'll see how much of their secrets they might give away. I'll ask you.
Perfect. It's good to have secrets. So, I don't know. My frag tank looks like crap. My display looks amazing. 50-50 on the reef tanks for me.
So looks wise, I have been a little aggravated with my glass, like cleaning the glass. I'm really not great about it, but I'm down there every other day and I have the flipper. I want to get a stronger outside magnet because I'm at the point now where I'm getting some of that crystalline or like annoying algae. I know coralline's going to start growing. It's all on the back wall and on the rocks right now, but it's going to start growing. And so I really want to get that strong Tunzi magnet for the outside. I think I'll just buy one and make one. Anyway, and then have the flipper on the inside and go to town on it. That combo of magnet cleaners it works really well because that flipper blade is nice and expensive and lightweight. Yeah. And you get the strong magnet on the outside and it just sucks it right up against the glass. So you just got to be cautious. Go ahead.
What are you using for the outside then? Because I have the flipper.
And so like Tunzi makes a really strong magnet cleaner. Yeah. But the blade part, the inside, the wet side of your flipper
is better.
It's got more of an efficient blade. Like you have more blade exposure on that one. Yeah. And so you take the outside of the Tunzi, the inside of a flipper or algae free, and you put them together because that Tunzi magnet is just freaking super strong. So it pulls that flipper up against the glass tighter, and so you get the benefit of the larger blade and the nice angle, but it's even stronger. So it just pulls off the nasty algae much easier with less effort. Ryan does it. He does it with, I don't know the exact combo, but I want to say it's the Tunzi and algae-free scraper side that he does. Because algae-free makes a nice scraper blade side for the inside. But either way, you get the idea. You just use a stronger magnet on the outside. Because the flipper magnet leaves something to be desired. It's not super, super strong. It works for, your everyday green film.
It's better to size it up to get the extra strength. Like
totally, man. Yeah, and just deal with it. Pull it out of your tank if you don't want to stare at it. And you have more cleaning area anyway, so you get the job done quicker. Yep. But I've been annoyed with that, man, because I'm starting to get those areas where I got to go in with the razor blade and manually scrape it out, which I'm neglecting to do. So it's creepy. You know how it creeps up the sand bed slowly. Like you just like you get stuff like right in the sand bed. Cleans up. Hello, folks. All by myself. It's all by myself. When no one was listening, I was all by myself.
So, everyone, probably like once every month or so, because you're talking about creeping up the sand bed. I bought this like little stainless one off Amazon ages
Planet
ago.
Tank one?
Yeah, but it uses like shaving blades, so you just go buy like the shaving razor blades for it. Mm-hmm. But for
works really good?
Yeah,
you get down in there, you can get
in the sand bed, like, because it's always that little part that's hard to clean about the sand bed, or there's certain spots where you don't get it. This thing works awesome for that.
Found with those is, and that one might be better because it's steel, so it's rigid and you can get the pressure. Yeah. But I find when your blade is longer, your handle is longer than 12 inches, like it's so hard to get enough pressure. But being steel, you could probably
it unscrews. You can make it smaller if you want.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, if I could have like a 12-inch handle, it'd still be better. I mean, my hand's still getting wet, but like it's not as annoying because you don't have to get down in between the rocks and everything. So
yeah. But just getting those weird spots and like at the very base of the sand bed or those coral, I don't know. Every once in a while, it just goes. It's good to. Get
and I recently, so this is a strange phenomenon. I told you about bubble corals. Yep. That came in on a frag. And actually, that came in the tank as one of the first frags. So I've kind of been battling it, but it's just been recently. And I had a frag rack in there, a Reef Rax one. So it was a resin. It was made out of resin, and I had a bunch of zoanthids on it. For whatever reason, man, that bubble algae exploded on that resin rack. Like, there's a couple little patches on my rocks, and there's just the one rock where it natively was established that's got like 3 or 4 patches. Mm-hmm. There's another rock with some zoanthids I moved, so I think they came with that plug. And then, those are the only 2 spots in the whole entire tank. It's been there for months that way. Every so often I just go in, pull them out with the tongs or my hands or something. But dude, that frag rack in a matter of 3 weeks just was covered from all over the place.
Really?
It was higher up in the column, purple color. I don't know, man. You have to, the question is made out of resin, but this stuff's inert. Like, I don't think that would have anything to do with it. I mean, just like the surface maybe because it was, it's super, rough. Not porous, but lots of nooks and crannies and stuff. That's how he makes it. I don't know. It was interesting. I pulled it out, needless to say, because I got sick of staring at it.
Now,
yeah.
Speaking of random things, no idea if it's related, but I was separating the fish in my frag tank because my yellow tang has been a bit of a bugger to the copper band when I added them. So I used like some big sheets of that craft mesh to like split the tank in half for like a week or two, just to see. But now it's like covered almost in cyano, which makes me wonder: is there something in that material that's doing it? Which I wouldn't think so, because it should be inert plastic. And everyone
well, it
gets
was like the white egg crate or light crate, the light diffuser. The white one, they say is you always want to use the black one because it doesn't leach phosphates of some kind. I don't have first-hand experience. I just know that I think it was on Reef Central where they had the whole thread about testing it and putting it in water and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I believe it if it was true. Plastic can leach things.
No, yeah, it's true. I have zero idea if there's any correlation or not, but it's currently covered in cyano. It's like, oh, lovely.
Chemist, yeah.
Do either of you use Aquaforest Life Source? I actually did add a bag to my frag tank. Again, it's really hard to know definitively if they make a big difference in what it does. But I see kind of like similar idea like what Miracle Mud was. It's bringing in bacteria and trace elements in a sense, so your tank can pull from it. So I added a bag of each to my sump just underneath my Chaeto. But
it's like a refugium mud or
basically, yeah, it's kind of like Miracle Mud. It's mud that they pulled out of the ocean. So I mainly added it to add that bacterial diversity and a little more natural bacteria to my tank. That was my main purpose. But they do also have like trace elements, which can be a bit of a trace element source. So if your tank needs something, it can suck some of it out of there.
I'd be curious to test that whole trace element theory and because I've used Miracle Mud quite a bit, and like you said, I believed it was helping, but at the end of the day, they tell you to re-up it and remove some and add some new stuff every year and a half, 2 years, something like that. I would like to see some science on that, other than just the product description, and same with Aquaforest, I don't think there's any sort of like peer-reviewed studies on that.
Yeah.
So it'd be neat to really know okay, what's the rate at which this stuff depletes? What is it adding? Not just trace elements, such a generic word, get away from this sort of snake oil language that we use. And not to say that it doesn't work by any means, not at all.
Yeah.
It would be neat to have those facts, those cold hard facts with it. So, you're not doubling up on a generic trace element dosage. Dude, what if it like eliminates the need for adding trace elements, and now you can just use BRS 2-part, add the life source, and you're good for a year and a half, and not having to use multiple additives.
Okay, so I think the problem is that if it has elements in it, it would be hard to say how fast it gets sucked out, because a tiny tank with 5 corals or a 100-gallon tank jam packed is gonna suck out a lot more of that availability if it's there.
Well, sure, and some stuff's consumed as super fast. Iodine is it's gone in a minute. So depending on what it is, but can you adjust the amount of life source you use to bigger tank, more corals, more life source? So what it is and the rate at which it dissolves, I guess, or leaches into the tank. And then you can just only, assume based on bio load and everything how fast it's used up.
Yeah, so
it'll be interesting.
It is. It's really hard to quantify this stuff because it so varies from tank to tank. So I don't know how you would test it, but I would agree it would be cool. I guess you could just soak it and
the next generation of the biome test.
That should be coming back soon. By the way, I'm super curious to find out what was up with my tank.
Exciting.
I know. We'll be excited.
Next live stream, we can look at it together.
Yeah, could be good, man. So hopefully sometime in the next couple weeks I should get those results.
Yeah, that'd be stoked, man. I'd like to see it too. I know there's since I originally heard about it, I think it was almost a year and a half, 2 years ago. It's changed. They're adding features, and there's they have the DNA test plus and the biome test. There's different things they're offering, and I know they have big old plans for the future too. So it's just such an exciting development, man.
Yeah,
I really look forward to the day where they have thousands and thousands of tanks
yeah,
on data sets to look at, you know?
I think the not the technology is young, the application or hobby is young, and the data
Yeah,
set is young. So I think,
right.
a couple years from now, I think it's going to be super useful. It's still young, and I still, how much are we going to learn? I don't know. Like, what do you do with that data? If there's something bad in your tank, maybe, how do you get rid of it? Or, you're lacking something. Okay, is there a way to add this in?
Yeah, I mean, simple like diversity.
Yeah.
Like you talk about something. Okay, we know, we assume diversity makes for a more stable aquarium, and then what exactly is in that diversity we can identify, and then do things to promote those. Like that's just sort of a simple one. But then there's like complex stuff that you can get into, like, okay, so how do we target this bacteria? How do we get this bacteria? How do we eliminate the bad one?
Yeah.
All those different things, and then finding out why it happens, like more about the cycle. Let's use a different nutrient source to cycle the tank. Like who knows, maybe using chicken poop or something is going to promote a better biome through the cycle than the typical fish food or whatever the ammonia strata of the fish. Just all kinds of cool questions, man.
Yeah.
Stuff that's gonna open the doors to.
So yeah, I think it'll be good in time. But this it made me laugh because we were talking about this. It was after I did that live stream, we were talking about the benefits of all the diversity that I put all that stuff in my sump. I'm like, I'm finally gonna use all these bags that I've had sitting here. So it was my inspiration to do it. And then like a couple weeks later, I did the test. So maybe we'll up my score a bit. Not that there is like any tangible score, but yeah.
Was that the last live stream we did? We talked about me dumping a bunch of bacteria in the tank.
Possibly. A few people have asked how your tank is coming, how things going. I know you kind of talked about it in the beginning, but
oh, dude, it's great, man. The corals are great. Like I said, the bad taste in my mouth because I lost that coral shipment, but all those corals that did survive are awesome. The flobbies are doing great. The lobos doing great. Got some really cool orange. They remind me of like the old school orange Bam Bam zoanthids, but they're different. They have like a lighter orange skirt and they're bigger. They're like
nice.
almost polyphylla size. I'm stoked. Orange is my thing. So
yeah.
Pretty stoked on those, man. And I got those spread in different spots. And they're doing real well.
Those ones? Since I literally just, I don't know if that will show up, but.
Oh, those are like the utter chaos kind of?
No, I think those are orange Bam Bams. I literally took that photo
today.
Okay.
So you know how they have like their same orange throughout, but it's kind of got that gray ring that sort of inside of the skirt.
Yeah.
These are like solid. So like the mouth or the disc, the oral disc, I guess, is solid orange. And then that like there's no like blending into a darker color there. And then the skirt itself is like a peach or like a lighter orange, almost yellowy. It's really neat. There's probably a name for them, man. But I'm excited on them.
That's cool.
They're neat. I want to get some of those tubs blue zoos too, man. Remember those?
Do I still have those?
Yeah, maybe. The tubs are cool. And I could never get them to grow real fast, so I always cherish them. Like, oh man, I got one polyp a month, I'm like get super stoked
so
on
slow.
It. I haven't seen them in a bit. I mean, I'm sure I could find them if I looked, but.
Okay, Blaine said could be Jason Fox mango coolers. So we'll go those later, see if they're those. Mango
coolers. I wonder if that's Blaine, top shelf Blaine.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, there you go. Blaine, tell us how they grow corals on string.
They grow it on PVC.
I see.
When I was there at least a couple of years ago, it was more of like their structure, but it was all this crazy PVC structure, and they had just like a little peg so they can put the disc with the coral on it. And then a few minutes ago,
this was like a coral tree, but you just put the plugs throughout.
It's like Lego-y where you can just put them wherever you want. But yeah, I remember.
I mean, similar. It's just the lighting from all angles. I think is what is going to be experimental. That's going to be neat.
Yep. And then, but yeah, it's basically because it's for just to optimize light and flow for all the acros.
Yeah.
Yep. Question: I'm using your light schedule. What timer should I put my Orphotech blues to turn on and off?
Orphotech blues, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, to go with my Radion schedule. That would be personal preference. If you want them all day, just add a little extra pop. I mean, just match with the schedule. If you want to use them just for night lights, that's personal preference, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, typically what would happen is your Radions or your pendant or your high output lights that will run, say, 8 hours at the peak of the day, and then 2 hours on either end. So you've got your Orphex come on 2 hours. They run 2 hours after, and they come on 2 hours before your Radions. And you just run them all day. I mean, that would be sort of the classic sunrise, sunset approach we would use, just like you would use a T5 bulb. But like Devin said, man, like since you have the radions, there's a number of different ways you can do that because you can adjust the intensity on everything. You know, how much par are you getting from the blues? Do you want them just to like give that super, super duper pop at nighttime? It's kind of how I run the lights is I have like a 4-hour ramp down and it's like heavy, heavy blue and UV. So I can have that cool sort of fluorescent stuff at night when I'm home milling around. But the morning is just an hour ramp up and it goes to peak, runs for like 7.5. No, it runs for like 9 hours. I do it a long time at peak. And then it, you know, it goes a real slow drop off at the end of the day.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. Oh, yeah. You guys can't see, but the dog keeps opening and closing my door.
It looked like a ghost. It was like one of those paranormal activity things. So the door just like opened and it like kind of closed and it opened again and I couldn't see the dog. Oh, it was great, man.
Yeah.
And there's like nothing behind the door. So.
Yeah, you can't stop him. We have the little lever handles and he'll stand up and like open the doors.
He's such a gorgeous dog, man. It's a good dog. I like
Thanks,
your
man.
dog.
He's a good guy.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike. Devin, do you push or pull through your calcium reactor? I always push. I find they're quieter pushing. Whenever you pull, I find for whatever reason it's always harder to bleed out the air and the other stuff. And I just find they run quieter and you don't really seem to get air ever getting trapped in it. Where pull, I find that happens sometimes.
You know, it's weird. I always find it difficult. I mean, you don't get all the air out for 2 to 4 weeks anyway. It seems like after media change, especially because there's just air that comes out of the media, I find. I've only run it pulling for like a week. And it just annoyed me because I couldn't, you know, dial it in. With these peristaltic pumps we have now that are just better quality that you can run in continuous duty, I can imagine it would be better. But classically, I mean, I was taught to push them. I've always set them up as pushing. However, I think Randy and the crew, it was just a brief conversation I had with Randy, but I'm pretty sure they did some testing where they pulled it and it was easier for them to tune it in for. I have to look at it and I hate to say it, I don't know, but there was some evidence that they had. I just don't know what that evidence was that said it was more efficient to pull it through.
Yep.
Don't know why though.
Dang, Tracy. Massive super chat. Thank you for prototyping the floating frag rack. Let's see what you can come up with. Now I feel committed to this.
Dude, let's do it.
You just committed me. All right. I'll have to get creative now and figure out how to make something happen. This is for science here. Thank you so much, Tracy. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. Now I feel obligated to make this happen.
Well, do it together, man. I'll help you out. This will be fun. We can hit up Adaptive Reef if you need anything weird or crazy, you know. But it's a simple thing. We just need a tank and
stage one.
On top.
I'm just gonna try hanging some to start, and then I'll see about multiple light angles.
Well, you need to get the light on 3 sides of it. That's the cool part is sides.
This Focusronic moving light, if I hung it in the middle and focused both sides of the lights at a 45, they would hit it from both sides, and they had the reef lights on the side would hit the other side. So it'd basically be like that would work. I'm gonna try it just because.
Yeah, the hard part is gonna be suspending the coral and not shadowing.
Yeah, but if you have 2 pucks that you can angle, and you hang the coral in the middle.
What are you gonna tie the string to?
I'll find something.
That the coral's hanging
down.
Maybe
the light's metal. Maybe I can magnet it.
Or you could have a post. There's no reason in that scenario. There's no reason you couldn't just put it on a post from the bottom, you know, because the light's still coming in at the different angle because you're not, you know, coming from the bottom. Whatever, we're overthinking it.
We'll figure something out. I have to try this now. I'm committed. Yeah.
It's not a super original idea, but I think it's going to be awesome. The outcome of it.
It's going to be good. Mike, thank you, buddy. Every little bit counts. I appreciate it, man. So yeah, something good's gonna come. Either that, or get like a 5 or 10, just for like experimentation purposes. Getting like a 5 or 10 gallon cube, but just like plumb it into the main tank, so you don't have to worry about anything else, and just put lights on physically, just light it from both sides.
Well,
that's the other option.
Like the coral feature, it'll be like this cool spotlighted abnormal spinning coral, you know, just a ball like those mothballs that have in freshwater tanks where it's just this like slow churning ball of coral, you know. And then when you have it glowing with the blue light, it's gonna look rad.
Yeah, it'd be super cool.
We can, yeah.
This might look funny, but we'll find a way to make this work.
Well, because the bottom light, you know, you could like have this sort of decorative like orb shaped tank or something, and then you bottom light it with blue light, and now you've got this like glowing slow moving ball of SPS coral. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how cool would that be, dude? Like a crystal ball with a coral inside of it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Interesting, Blaine. You could use a hamster ball with a string running through it to grow Chaeto so that it can tumble without overgrowing. Ball of Chaeto.
I've seen the hamster ball thing before.
Did it work well?
I've never done it. I've seen it. I've seen it and heard about it because they make clear ones of those. Whatever brand it was, they make clear ones and you can do it.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
all these crazy ideas. They're so good.
Oh, dude, I love it.
I know. What do you got, Robert?
So, last time we chatted, there was a funny thing that happened to me. Live stream. So after I got off the stream, I don't know, it was an hour or two later. I hop on my phone as I'm getting into bed. Started playing my little pool game. I play like a game on my phone. It's pool. And some dude like asked me to play pool, and it was a reefer that was on the live stream watching. He's like, "Hey, I just watched you and Devin on the live stream."
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Randomly on my phone. It was, I giggled about it. I thought it was great too. So whoever you are, buddy, hello and awesome. Appreciate you watching.
Yep. Got the pool going. All right.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not much of a gamer, but it's like reading when I go to bed. Like it definitely helps me like calm down at the end of the night. Just some numb, brainless activity for a little bit.
That's fair. I'll fill you in on my random one later.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah,
Yep.
Sounds good.
I know. Shelly, so hitting the thumbs up. I hit it like 3 times already. It won't stick. It's glitchy. On off.
Yeah. Oh man.
I know. Any other? So okay, magnet scraper for you on the Black Friday list.
Oh yeah, Black Friday. Actually,
Yeah.
We should talk about it. We should hit that. So exciting stuff, man! Black Friday, BRS, it's coming. Like I said, we try to outdo ourselves every year. So there's some really cool stuff in the pipeline. And in addition to, all the great discounts and sales you're gonna run into, but man, Ryan just outdoes himself every year, and like
That's awesome.
the $65,000 tank is just the tip of the iceberg, man.
What?
I know they're live streaming tomorrow, which is going to be something really cool, and then thereafter, man, there's some stuff. Ryan's been alluding at it all week. It's like what he's got planned, and I don't even know everything.
Yeah.
But man, there's some cool stuff coming. So stay tuned, man. BRS TV, watch it all week.
I got to catch the one from earlier today. I haven't watched it yet. Okay, Mike, do you find benefits in natural cycle or adding live rock and good bacteria just as good? Okay, so natural cycle will work, but it will take a lot longer to build up the bacteria. Adding bottled bacteria will speed it up because you are adding that cycling bacteria. Now, the only, I guess, light downfall is you're not getting as diverse a bacteria. So you're adding, bacteria in a bottle, but you have limited amounts of bacteria that you're getting, or limited strains rather. Where if you can get live rock from established system, it's going to bring in a whole ton or a whole slew of different bacterias. So it's going to give you much more diversity and help minimize your cycle. So if you
But you have the risk of, go ahead.
Yeah. So, but there is a risk you could bring in bad stuff with good stuff. So that's the trade-off. Now, if you have someone with a nice tank that doesn't have any obvious pests or nasty things, if you could get some meaty off them or rock off them, use that to help seed it as well as adding some bottle bacteria. That's personally what I would do, because that would speed up your cycle plus bring in a lot of good diversity.
That's like, I think Ryan says it all the time. Every fish store should have stacks of Brightwell aquatic export biomedia in a clean, UV sterilized tank. Sell it for, $30 a block because it's cycled. It's healthy media that's going to last forever, in said tank, and you can have an instant cycle.
Yeah.
Like the classic thing with setting up a fish tank, you get all excited to get to the store, and then the guy tells you like, okay, fill it up with water and then wait 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Dude, I want that fish now. That's the thing,
Yep.
So, having that ability to instant cycle, or at least get it going faster, in with a diversity of bacteria, and we'll know so much more about this when that, that biome stuff develops.
Exactly.
It's certainly, I think, a better approach.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how you get there.
Now, if I know I'm starting a new tank or I'm going to upgrade in the future, I will go get like another bright wool brick or something and throw it in the sump and let it sit there for a month first, and then use that to help seed the new tank. So I mean, if you have a buddy with a reef tank, you could bribe him to throw that nice new block in his sump and fill it up for you. So a couple things you can think of. Ask away, Mike, no problem. Even though I've been feeding for like 7 years, or reefing, I'm assuming. Yeah, MP60 spinning a frag rack would be a whirlwind, not at full speed.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, you can spin the coral tree with the MP60. I'm like, that's a little intense.
Yeah, that would. That's the thing. Is it's just like it's a balance, you know.
No, that could work though. If you use like a wind turbine at the bottom and just have a small power head blowing at it, it would. Like,
oh, totally.
Yeah.
Well, here's the argument too. So if you have a motor turning this frag rack, right? Does it need? Do you need water movement? Like, because oxygenation you can handle like with a sump or something, but in the display, like, because the coral is moving, so there's actual movement happening on the polyps and it's turning. So does it need it? Like, do you just turn it faster? You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing that I was kind of curious about. And there's probably a simple answer to this.
You do. So, okay. Yeah. So there is, if there's not enough flow, that's actually bad for your corals, because they have, the flow is what brings, you know, fresh, good stuff to the polyps. And it also gets away their waste. So if there's, but they can't really just like throw it away, right? So they rely on the flow to bring stuff to them and take it away. So
if it's spinning though, that would wash away still.
But is it enough though?
Yeah,
and there needs to be a certain velocity to get through that bounding layer on the coral. So
yeah, and I could, you know, just thinking about it, like say corals, you know, is emitting a dye, like it would move, but you would just create this centralized pocket of dye.
Like it would go like around it, where you need that higher flow to kind of hit it more and break the bounding layer.
But I mean, you know, technically, no, even then, like you said, it's probably just not going to be sufficient because, I'm thinking of delivering food. Like, it's going to constantly be exposed to new food, new areas of light and everything, but probably not enough. But I think you could get away with
it'll probably survive, but I think it would do better with more flow.
But you could, too, like, it's going to give you the ability to survive with a little bit less flow because it's going to help. You know, it's going to help certain movement, you know. Anyway.
How fast can the tree spin?
Yeah, well, and the question is, like, what's the perfect balance between flow and spinning, you know?
Well, we use Port will suggest and use an MP60, then we'll definitely have enough. Be so overkill.
Yeah, definitely have
the... post cycle. Okay, yeah, for cycling a tank, always leave your lights off because you're just going to grow algae if you're cycling a tank. After cycle, if you don't have coral yet, I mean... I would just run the lights like low percentage if you have LEDs. Once you start adding corals, you can ramp it up. But fish don't necessarily care. I mean, ambient light's okay for them. But yeah, until you start adding corals, I wouldn't worry too much about it. I don't know if I'd throw your lights directly onto 12 to 14 hours until you have coral and everything else in there. And if you do, just turn the percentage way down, just as preventative until you have creatures to eat it and manage it and outcompete it. Dun, dun, dun. A cheap appliance timer to turn your lights off. Yeah, I mean, appliance timers easy. Smart plugs are like $10 now. Yeah.
Yeah, I just bought them. I brought all my I have tropical plants and stuff that I keep outside in the summer. It gets cold and freezes here, so I bring them inside for the winter. And so I just set up a big shelf downstairs and bought one of the, the inexpensive Amazon pendant lights and used a classic wall timer and dude, $55, man. I'm like lighting, I don't know, like 10 square feet of plants.
Yeah.
And it's just to keep them alive. They're not like, I'm not, growing them like out of the pot, but point being, it was inexpensive. The timer worked, and reliable.
That works.
Yep.
Do you, yeah, that'd be cool. Completely random since you're talking about the plants. I debated doing that with the little 12-gallon long tanks, like making like a fancy little like herb garden-y thing in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Put like a little prime above it and then have like a big strip of little plants. I haven't done it, but I thought it'd be kind of
yeah,
cool
I don't know enough about like the environment, that certain herbs need to grow, but to create a terrarium, I mean, it's just like a terrarium, where you're growing plants, but or it would just act like a pot where you just fill the tank all the way up. But point being is like maybe fill half the tank and then you're growing it in there.
Yeah,
so,
that's what I was thinking.
Have that, side viewing,
Completely unrelated, but I've been debating doing that for a while. One day might happen.
And growing plants is cool. That's the same fascination, man. It's like I love to grow coral because I love to grow plants. You know, it's like the same sort of satisfaction I get from like keeping a garden, having my house plants, and growing the coral. Like just growing stuff is cool, man.
It is. It's fun.
Yeah, I mean, I can probably get my rocks off growing phytoplankton just the same, you know.
Yeah. True, true. Okay, Mike, about dry sand last time, rinse it before going in. Dry sand, it will reduce how cloudy makes your water. If you buy live sand, which is wet, it doesn't have all the dusty fines, where dry sand generally will. Easiest way to rinse it is put it in a 5-gallon bucket, put a garden hose in the very bottom of it, and let all the water percolate up, and it will percolate all the little fines out. And then use it after that. But that's what I do in a new tank, just to save.
You don't get the sediment, but you do get a cloud. So I hate telling people that live sand won't cloud. It's much more mild, and what it is a bacteria cloud over like a thick sediment cloud. Mm-hmm. So either way, it's not going to be crystal clear for 7-10 days most likely, whenever that bacteria really turns around or turns over. But that said, most certainly live sand, and it does. I think you're going to get a benefit with the cycle. I don't have proof or hard evidence, but live bacteria is in there. I think you're gonna have a benefit in terms of time frame and when the tank stabilizes.
Yeah. Mike the newbie, what salt mix do you use, and do you fix it to match your alkalinity levels? I use Neomarine. I do not adjust it, but I also only do very small water changes, so the impact isn't enough for me to worry about. If I was to do a massive water change, I might bump it up a little bit, but it's around 7.5 or 8 or whatever the heck it is for Neomarine.
So we're talking about adjusting your salt mix alkalinity before you do your water change?
Now, keep in mind, though, my tank is 200 gallons, right? If I'm doing 2 gallons a day water change, that little smidge of a thing makes zero difference. If I was doing a 20-gallon Nano and doing a 5-gallon water change, then I would be more cautious of it, and I would want to be more matched. So it depends.
It goes back to use the salt mix that has target parameters. So
that's
in
easiest.
these situations, you just choose something that because like all the salt mix they'll have different parameters between each one. Yes, totally right. But stability is the most important thing. So if Devin's trying to fight and keep his alkalinity at 9, but his Neomarine has 8.5 out of the box, well, maybe you just settle for the 8.5 pH and maintain things that way, because now you're not fighting yourself. Or Devin switches to a salt that is at 9 DKH right out of the box. So generally speaking, rather than fight it, you just
pick a salt that matches it.
You pick a salt that matches what you want, or is at least close to it.
Yep.
Or just change what you want to accept what the salt mix gives you, and your corals and everything will acclimate, because it's stability, man, not the exact number.
Yeah. So if you keep your elk at 11 or 12, I mean, that's what reef crystals is. If you keep it at 7.5 to 8, that's more Neomarine is.
You're far better off just accepting it and giving the stability than adjusting and matching and bumping up and bumping down and bumping up and bumping down constantly. In that instance, you would have to adjust your salt mix every time, but small partial changes, not going to be a huge effect, but you're only using that much more additive to get to where you want to be. Having said, you're keeping a higher level than what the salt mix is. So,
yep.
I think my advice there is just accept the parameters that your salt mix is giving you, or change the mix.
Pick a salt that's similar to what your elk is, and then you don't have to worry about it. Easy. Planet 3D, were you relieved from the news about Australia? We can still get coral. Well, still getting coral's good. I don't actually know what the news is. Apparently I'm out of the loop on this one.
Yeah, I mean, let's be real, man. It's not going to be too long before the ocean's cut off from all of us. Maybe not coral, but fish. No, that's the thing. I don't know, man. I have a hard time believing that unless we do more work on like sustainable aquaculture and things like that. Wild collected corals. I mean, the resources is dying much faster. Like, and the aquarium industry doesn't have a huge impact. It really does not. It's for reasons outside of our control that the reef is not surviving. And I'm not saying that we're gonna take all the coral and won't be any left. The environment and all the things that are happening to the ocean is going to kill it, and there just won't be any left at all. And I don't think it'll have any we
Well,
won't have any responsibility for that as hobbyists, you know.
e-
Um,
either from global
tangent.
warming or
Yeah.
restrictions or something, over time there's going to be less and less availability of wild corals,
But you're
and
right.
it's going to
We got this time to get some cool stuff from Australia and get that into our tanks so we have it for generations
yeah,
to come.
and keep it alive, get good at growing it, and trade it with your friends, and then we have more and
There you
more
go.
of it. And
Yep.
try lighting your tank from multiple angles and hanging it, and if it grows faster, there's more to share. So,
That's right.
right?
That's right, man. Get it, the seed bank it, you know. We got to grow the seed bank here. And then it's on all of us, man, to keep that seed bank going and,
I think so. Yes.
share the things that we learned with those that follow.
100%. Quota allowed until 2024. Okay, so I guess there's probably like a certain number they're allowed to export every month or year for the next couple of years. But
Yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, it's a big business over there, man.
Yep.
I can see it.
Huge.
Yeah.
But no, like at the end of the day, like eventually all the coral is most likely going to be from what is
Captive
aquaculture from, places like WC, Coral Farms, us, other hobbyists, right? So that's one reason I'm a fan of like all these like auto testers and things, because it gives people a higher chance of being successful, right? You don't need this stuff, but it's more likely to prevent you from buggering up something, which means more successful coral long term. So I don't know. It all depends how you look at it, but
I don't know. I personally am excited for that future. Not excited for reefs to die, but I'm excited for, a huge increase in captive culturing of both fish and coral. Like that's just like the ultimate dream, man. And if we can have living reefs alongside a super robust, captive culturing, industry,
yep.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, and all the stuff that's been raised in captive is hardier. So there's a lot of good wins to
it. We can clone a sheep, man. We can figure out a way to keep these reefs alive,
Yeah. Do you trust your Hannah elk test? As long as the reagent isn't bad, then yeah.
There's reference solutions you can use too, like
to double check.
Yeah, like I don't know if you can make one for alkalinity. I guess you could with carbonate, but there's one that we sell on BRS. It's like a solution. It's got all the parameters printed on the bottle, and you could just test that.
Oh, I saw those.
Yeah, you can be more confident about it. Then now you're trusting the standard solution, but the kind of rule is you do 3 tests, and as long as they're not wildly different, like you're probably on track.
That's true.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting in the future of the hobby, but technology is getting better. They're coming with lots of cool new products and stuff. Do you need them all? No. Are they nice to have? Yes. You can have your tank super simple. I'm the worst because I work in IT, I work in tech. I love all the tech junky stuff. Robert, you are super simple in your tanks. You are anti-tech. You're like basic, simple.
I wouldn't say anti-tech, man. I love simple tech, and
fair.
But you're right. I hear you, man.
Yeah.
I'm most simply not a simpleton, but I like it simple.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I appreciate simple, but I get sucked into tech because I don't know. I have fun with it.
The only thing I do love, I love the idea of having the app on my phone and seeing everything and being notified when I'm away. I connect with the world via notifications and email, that's and text messages. That's our lives these days. Who calls each other anymore? Point being is, I love that idea. What I don't like is the 3,000 cords that's required in my tank and running an Ethernet cable there to actually be, reliant on that thing to text message me when it happens. So I think I'm excited for where this is heading and, what the future of it looks like. And I'll be much happier with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because I certainly do appreciate the individual smart equipment, the smart lights, the smart pumps. Those kind of things. Now that's cool to me. All these damn cords and power supplies that come with it. That's what drives me nuts.
I agree.
I remember when I first started, and you had your hang-on filter, you had your heater, you had your light. Power head. It's a large tank. You'd have a power head. So you got 4 plugs. That's what you're dealing with. Man, you can make that so clean and awesome. And then every year it's like one more plug and one more plug. And now look at where we're at. We've got controller boards and all this stuff. Stuff breaks down, you got to maintain it, and that's the frustrating part for me is you get it, looking nice, and then a year down the road you got to pull it apart, and it's difficult, and then you're having to go back and redo it. I think that's kind of the biggest downside for me. Moreover, just not liking technology. It's the hassle that comes along with all of that. That's just sort of practical.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. Question from Mike in the chat. After how long of having a tank running would you consider it to start adding acros to the tank?
Well, I would do it within, I don't know, a month or two. It's more about your confidence in maintaining stable parameters. So like if you're confident, you understand how calcium alkalinity works, you're confident maintaining a stable pH, between 8, 8.3, like keeping it above 8, and you can do that, and you can spend the time necessary to do it. I mean, I would add SPS right away into a tank. I mean, you could technically add it before it's even cycled, really. So I think it's more about your confidence and when you think you should. The sort of weird rule of like, oh, don't add coral for a year. No, don't add coral until you've been keeping a reef aquarium for a year.
Yeah. So
I've been keeping them, and Devin has been keeping for 20 years. So I think our confidence level is at the point, where you do it. But if you're new, build your confidence and understand how a reef tank works before you try SPS corals. That's great advice.
Yeah. Now, other notes. Like, I know you've been reefing for a while, Mike, too. Like, as long as things are stable, you could add them pretty much right away. I told the story a few times, but there's been a couple times when I've bought coral back in the day when it wouldn't fit in my tank because it was, my little Innovative Marine 20-gallon tank, and I bought some big green slimer and some other stag, and it wouldn't even fit in the tank. So I literally put it in a 5-gallon bucket with a heater, a power head, and a light, and it lived in there for a month. And it's a little water change on every few days.
Yeah.
So if you add a bunch of fish right away, they're going to add a lot of nutrients to the tank, and that's going to boost up your nitrates, your phosphate, and all the other stuff until your tank is cycled. And that is actually more harmful than just having a coral in water, because it's not going to create that waste and not going to have as many swings. So as long as the parameters are stable, like things are fine, you don't add too many fish, you can add them right away. They likely will survive. They're not going to thrive until things settle in.
And the tricky part is your calcium alkalinity, maintaining a stable pH. Like those things are the trickier ones, as opposed to figuring out how to manage nutrients. You really want to be confident, because that's the thing that's going to make them go south the quickest. I think 9 out of 10 people have a hard time with it because they don't fully grasp that stability and how to do it. So
yep.
Yeah.
What are you guys using to add nitrates other than more fish? I have never had a no nitrates problem. I've had to in my frag tank, I have very low phosphate and low nitrate, and I do like nothing for media. I have a turf scrubber on there, and that's it. Super easy.
Yeah, I mean, I like to feed frozen food, dude, and that's
all I
messy.
feed.
Yeah. It's messy. Yeah, exactly. So if you're feeding something like rods or Larry's, like a mixed frozen food, and you're doing that every day, I just have a hard time believing you're not going to be able to keep nitrates up. Otherwise, you're obviously doing something with your filtration that just needs to be taken care of, like over carbon dosing, way too much carbon dosing, or your effusions or scrubbers need to be turned down a bit.
Yeah, I've never had to add nitrates, but I also feed very heavy too, so that probably is half the battle right there.
Yeah, that's the simplest approach to it all. Now, if you want to get benefits of carbon dosing for your coral and things like that, it's a balance, man. Just mild carbon dosing. I think the key to carbon dosing is not stripping your tank and doing, not vodka dosing or biopellets where it's like kind of it's strong, where you're really focused on a zero nitrate level.
Yep.
I think just sort of mild where it, is helping to bring the nutrients down by creating bacteria to, to feed the coral. I think that's just a better approach to it.
Yep, exactly. Can you show a screenshot of your Mastertronic parameters chart? Let's see what I can do. Which tank? That's the question. Okay, so frag tank is super low. Let's see what this one tells me. So elk 8.7, pH 7.97, NO3, so nitrates 0.6, phosphate 0.006, so super low. Calcium 560, magnesium 1480. If I go to my main tank, yeah, then a spectra. So elk in the water box 8.25, pH 8.1. I'm still waiting for the rest of the parameters to load. It's clicked out of it. My nitrates in that tank are around 13, I think. Phosphates are... I think I had them down to 0.08. I added a bunch of rural phos to get them down because they were getting up pretty high. So, depends. One tank's definitely much higher, but I have a ton of tanks in my main tank, so I definitely have a lot more of a nutrient issue in that one.
Oh man, that reminded me. I think Biota has their Coral Beauty angelfish available. I really want a captive bred centrified. I think I'm gonna pull the switch on that one.
Yeah.
I saw it on Algae Barn's website the other day, and I was like, oh, these things aren't in stock all the time, and I'm pretty sure it was in stock if I read the website right. So that's exciting. I think I'm gonna get that before I jump into the anemones and the clams.
Oh yeah.
Because I got little fish, man. I do need one sort of showy fish, and I mean I know they're gonna be small, but I'm excited. Captive bred centrifuge, I think, is one of the coolest fish out there. That's captive bred.
Yeah, nice. Okay, a few more questions in the chat. Here's a question thinking based on what I got going on. How far do you think you can run tubing for the skimmer to outside? Can I get away with 50 feet? If you want to go longer, use bigger tubing. I have probably 12 to 15 feet, and I think I used 1/2 inch tubing or 5/8. Basically, the longer it is, the more you want a larger tubing, right? Because if it's really small, it's going to be sucking a lot harder. If you have a bigger tube, then it's going to flow a lot easier.
Devin, I'm going to take a sec. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, I would just as big as you can fit through your hose, like 1/2 inch or 5/8, or the bigger the better. That's the only thing, right? Just make sure it doesn't suck it down too far. But 15 feet, you're probably fine. I basically used my skimmer size hose. I just took a little chunk of it, and I went to the hardware store, and I just figured out which one slid inside of it, and I used the next size up from that. Yeah, so I'm going to guess I probably had 15 or more feet up to get mine. I would rather not drill the wall. I mean, you don't need outside air, but it's the free way of boosting your pH, right? I thought Algae Born was out of stock. I have no idea. It's been a while since I ordered my original algae from them ages ago, but it's been a while. How would you go about adding more fish to prevent spikes in nitrate and phosphates from destabilizing your tank? Just don't add a ton of fish at once. If you add one fish or 1 or 2 fish, like, you're probably okay. But if you add, 5, 6 fish all at once, you're adding a lot more load to your system, and it takes a little while for your bacteria to build up to kind of stabilize that. So now there is some caveats, right? If you're like in my tank, I have 3 yellow tanks. Normally that's not a good thing, but adding them all at once made it a lot easier for them to kind of get along and grow up together. Versus, if I added one now and add another one later, it'd probably be a bit of a brawl in there. So certain times you do want to add more fish at once. But if they're different species and they're not really any compatibility issues, maybe add one now and, maybe a few weeks later add your next one rather than adding a bunch all at once, and then gives your bacteria population time to kind of balance out. Now, the other consideration is, too, you could always add a bit of denitrifying bacteria to your tank as you do it, and that's just going to give you that bit of a safety buffer to kind of like fill in that gap until it catches up on its own. What do you think about keeping only several species of coral and growing them out massively? I think I would try that. I think it looks really good when you see nice, big, awesome established colonies.
That's the coolest. Sorry, I'm back, Devin.
I noticed. Welcome back.
Jumping in.
It's okay. You probably got family stuff. We'll go too much longer, but...
Holly, okay. He has a store in California called Amazing Aquariums, and he does this, man. He does like a cool mix of soft corals and LPS that are just awesome. It just looks amazing. And they're lagoon tanks too. So you have these little like shallow or short little islands of rock, but they're just completely covered in coral. Yeah. And there's, lice, he keeps the sand nice and white and open. But you could also do a bare bottom this way because the big corals, when you let them get big, and we're talking 12 plus inches in diameter, not like a fist-sized colony, like a real colony of coral. Stuff's impressive, man. It's really, really neat to see. And you don't see it too often. Most of us are focused on the brightest in as many frags as we can get in there and then grow them out. There's something to be said about really large mature colonies that are, 12 plus inches across or as long as your arm. Stuff's cool. And I think of that aquarium every time we talk about mature colonies and people ask about that, because just he does some neat ones, man. I'll see if I'll find some pictures, Devin. Maybe I can get them to you real quick.
Okay. Yeah, it just looks awesome when you see big mature colonies over a tank full of teeny sticks. But yeah, just different ways of reef keeping. So many different places crammed in. Yeah, that's even now, like with my water box tank, you know, it's like I want to add another acro or a little coral. It's like, where do you put it without it considering the future growth, right? I'm like, oh, that's too close over there. That's too close over there. Like, it's a challenge to place stuff at a certain point because you just know it's all going to grow into each other eventually. So you got to try and find, you know, those angles and those different places to squeeze stuff in there. Yeah, I find that is a lesson too that I've learned over time with every tank. You know, my original tanks, corals way too close together. Next tank, still way too close together, but further. Next tank, you know, too many frags, too close. But you slowly learn over time with each tank and change it of proper spacing, and it's a hard one. Mike about to run 2 MP40s and 2 MP10s on a 6-foot 125. 40s on the end, 10s on the back. Yeah, I think that'd actually be tons of flow. You'd be good.
Here we go. Reef Builders did a little write-up on him.
All right. Do you send it to me?
You. Yeah, I'll link you.
Okay.
Old Japanese-style soft coral reefscape. You can search it out. Oh, looks like they've got a couple videos on here, too. Yeah, I guess the Japanese style is a good way to say it. How am I going to send it to you? Oh, I can chat you.
Okay. Skype, Facebook, where are you sending this?
I'll send it in Skype.
Okay.
And that's not even the coolest one I've seen at his shop. I remember seeing this tank. Like, I filmed one years back that, my gosh. Oh, here's another one. He's got two, actually. There's a video tour. Yeah, this video tour will be a better show of it, but share it with this. But Reef Builders, just amazing aquariums and reefs. You'll get two things in.
2 for 1. Let's see what we got.
Yeah, man. I mean, he's got bare bottom tanks with SPS in there and soft coral tanks. I think the soft coral ones really are the ones that are sort of breathtaking in my opinion. Big clams, big, 12, 15-inch clams.
Nice. Oh, there we go. We got a little video. Let's check her out. Turn this way down. Green Slimer, classic. I like it.
Can people on YouTube see what you're looking at or not?
Yeah, sorry, Robert. You're hiding behind the video.
No, it's fine. I just want to make sure people can see. I can watch it here. Yeah. Vlog.
Big Gonies. Love the Gonies. Big Toadstool. Yeah. You know what? I'm always addicted to like the acros and the LPS, but I do appreciate a big softy tank. If I'm ever
dude.
like,
it's amazing. Oh yeah, there it is. Yep. Yeah, he's got some cool stuff. Like that one with the green slimer in there. Like, jeez.
Green slimer is like underrated. Every tank should have that one. It's so bright and does such cool growth patterns.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got tons of tanks. Holy crap.
Yeah, and that's what's neat about his shop too. It's just like a bunch of display tanks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, he cares for every single individual coral he's got, and you can tell it's the way he does it.
Huh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that. So bright. Green Slimer. Okay, first SPS.
I'm gonna see if I can pull the footage I got. I have footage from I guess it was pre-2018. I'm thinking like 2014, 2015, and there was some tanks that I don't see in this video because he moved shops. And so I'm gonna see if I can pull that footage up. I know it's on a drive somewhere. I just gotta dig it up. I'll share it with you, Devin.
Okay, sounds good.
And we can share it with the world if I can find it.
Sounds good. If you find it soon, we'll do it. If not, then maybe we'll dig into it in a future one. But oh, there's a big clam in the back too. That's nice.
Yeah, the big the Durasa clams, isn't it?
Clams are a good water filter too. They help keep your tank cleaner.
Yeah, man, the clam refugium.
Corals at work. Oh, something else completely random. I added some manila clams from the seafood market for my copper band butterfly. So. Oh,
you got them like alive, like living clams, and you're feeding them to them?
Kind of, yeah. Like you throw them in the freezer and you put them in the tank. Now, one of them was devoured. The other one is still alive. It's been in there for like 2 weeks. And I'm amazed that it's still in there because they're like on ice at the seafood market. Yeah, it's still alive.
Okay, yeah, I got you. Okay.
But yeah, like it's crazy. So one tip, if anyone gets a copper band he's not eating, manila clams, fresh manila clams from the seafood market, it seems to be something that it's been about 3 or 4 different copper bands now, and they've all went for them, and it's a good way to get them eating.
Are they like from like the Philippines? Is that why they call it manila clams?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Oh, their homeland is the Philippines.
But it's just,
Yeah, okay.
it works. Doesn't your neomarine give you crazy high magnesium? It might actually. I do have high mag in both my tanks, so quite possibly. Wouldn't surprise me if it did. To be honest, I've never really directly tested the salt mix, but in my tank, it's always elevated mag, but it always works. Gino,
I think we have.
Thank you.
I was gonna say, I think the params should be on BRS. Just pH 8. Just pH and alkalinity.
Okay.
I know years ago they did tests for. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, somewhere it says them all.
Mag 1290.
1290.
Average,
okay.
Average mag concentration is 1290.
Most of my tanks are high 14s, 1500s.
Calcium, potassium, strontium. 1400? Oh, that's pretty high.
Oh, or 15. They're always high in my tanks.
Crazy.
I use the calcium reactors and I load them up with the mag rock, so it's always up there.
Oh, the Neomag. I usually like to tell. I'm happy if I tested at 13.
Yeah. But
13,
yeah,
14.
things are happy. He has a big cool mangrove. There was, okay, I'll find a photo later, but there was a shop I went to in Louisiana, and one of the rooms had this like big pond. It was like this massive pond that had like a skylight in there, and there was these massive mangroves growing out of the lagoon pond. It was super cool. I don't know why. I always liked that. One day I want to try it.
I'm a fan of mangroves, especially. I just wish they were easier to grow in your reef.
Yeah.
You know, get the lighting and everything. It's difficult to do. You have to set up like a zones in the tank to where you can accommodate the. And this, I'm talking long-term growth in reefing. It's just difficult because you got your lighting way up high. It's going to shade all the corals below, so you have to really stock it carefully and do it.
You'd almost need a coral light, and once the mangrove goes past it, have a separate light for the mangrove, so that.
That's the thing. Or the drop-off tanks are good for that. Because you can have your deep part with the mangrove and then the shallow part with your coral, and then just have 2 lights, you know?
Yep.
But I got one. I do have one. I've got a couple from Algae Barn way back in, I don't know, February or something. And I put them in dirt just 2 or 3 months ago. I had them in the tank and just wasn't doing great. And then I finally put them in dirt, and now they're actually sprouting new leaves and everything. So
nice. Are they happy?
I hope to. Yeah. I mean, I hope it's a few years now from have at least my own little pet mangrove plant. It's not as cool as it is in a reef tank, but still need to have one.
But the thing is, you could like put it in just like a vase or something with a little bit of mud or dirt and let it grow, and then eventually move to a reef tank. Throw in some brackish water and.
I'm not sure. The whole Julian Sprung thing's cool. I think he recently did a video update on that pond he's got, which is neat. He's got a big mangrove out there, Mr. Mangrove.
Yeah, he has a whole like outdoor pond. I think WWC posted that video. I remember watching it. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, you're right. It was World Wide Coral. That's what it was. Richard always posts about it too. But he's got clams and stuff that are sunlit, which is really neat. And other corals are in there too, like soft corals and stuff. But the idea of just a naturally lit, reef pond with soft corals, clams, and mangroves is just rad, man. And then if you could build it to where you have like a side viewing panel somehow, like even cooler,
If I don't have it. Who does it? The ChemiPure people.
Mm-hmm.
They have or the Jellyfish Art, one of the two. They had a magazine of like custom aquariums they did, and I remember one of the pages in there was this. It was like a super open air place. Some are tropical and nice, obviously, but they had like their staircase and they had this big pond in the middle of their floor, a circle, and it was all like saltwater, like a lagoon.
Was it in Israel?
I don't know. I'll take a photo of the magazine later when I find it and send it to you. But it was super cool. It was like gorgeous. I'm like, man, if I ever lived somewhere it was Boyd. But if I ever moved somewhere tropical, like it'd be so cool to have like this like natural sunlit like reef tank pond in your house. Like how amazing would that be? It'd be so cool.
I've talked about him before, but there are outdoor coral farmers like Mr. Steve Garrett. He's got he's one of the coolest outdoor coral grows I've ever seen, man. It's neat.
Is that the guy that had like all these tanks in his backyard growing them outside?
Yeah, he's got 2 big coral runs in his backyard. He's got like one he originally built, an older one. I mean, they're like 12, 15 feet long coral runs,
Mm-hmm.
And then he's got a newer facility or a newer tank that's sort of separate, and he used everything he learned on the first one and made the second one better. And so like the second one is probably I would imagine still growing in, like he was still stocking and growing corals in there. It's a long process outside because you don't get the growth in the wintertime like you get in the summer because the days are shorter, and you know the seasonality. But in SoCal he's doing it. You know, it's generally mild enough year round. But yeah, man, talk about the future of captive bred. You know, we get that whole outdoor growing thing figured out.
It'd be good. Be cool. I don't know. I think he's gonna start tropical. So
he grows stuff fast, man. That's the thing is he grows stuff fast, and then you know, it's just a matter of getting it acclimated to artificial light and whatnot, and to color it up. You know.
I wonder if you could just use like some lighting outdoors, but just to give it the Tinix and other lights, just to, I don't know. Like, do you think
the know,
coloration would change?
Way back in the day, he had metal halides installed, but then took them off because he found he didn't need them. He actually filters the sunlight with some like blue colored plastic, so he filters it out.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm not educated. I don't know how that would all work out, but I'm sure you could supplement light to, you know, at least pump some UV on it. But you don't. That's the thing.
Okay.
Natural UV coming through, you know.
Here's another random thought I've had while we're on the random ideas. Do you know how like the orange glasses cut the blue out, and then they see your tank? Like I used to do window tinting back in the day. Now I've always wondered, because you can get different colored window tint. If you took a light orange and just tinted the whole side of your tank, if it would cut all of the blues but still give you the pop like the coral glasses do.
Yeah, of course it would. We've talked about this before.
Probably. I don't know why. I need like some nanos to experiment on.
We just need to test it. We just need to get that film and do it. Film it. There you go. Film it. Dude, Devin, that's a weekend project. You can do that YouTube video in 5 minutes.
The problem is the lack of tanks. I mean, I guess I could just slap it on the side of mine. But if I was going to do
it... just take it off when you're done.
I guess it's temporary. Yeah, fair.
Yeah, do it in your frag tank.
Yeah.
But you gotta clean the algae out first, Jen.
Yeah, my frag tank is nasty.
I'll do it. I mean, we can look.
I'll hide it.
I can totally do that, too. We just need to find the film, the adhesive or whatever. I'm sure it exists. Because, I mean, I've seen for, like, DIY photo filters, you know, for, like, making your own camera filter. Like, they sell that stuff. Just gotta find the source for it. It's inexpensive.
But, yeah, no, window tint. Colored window tint film would be the way to go. Because it would look, like, perfect. You wouldn't even notice there. Other than the water line, you'd notice it's more orange. But, I don't know.
Oh, okay. So they have crazy colors for window tint? Like, specifically?
I
remember
we tinted some cars, like, in orange and red and yellow. All kinds of weird stuff. I remember way back.
Oh, yeah, I guess custom cars. Yeah, I do that.
Yeah, they do all strange things.
Like reflective stuff. And
tint your glasses. I actually have some really cool coral glasses. They work well. I think they're D&D. But they worked, like, surprisingly well. Because they're not over... Most of them I find are too yellow or too orange. Where these ones were subtler. And I like that better. Because it's not as extreme and it's more natural looking.
I can see that.
Yep. All right, buddy. I think...
I am hungry.
Yeah, I'm getting there too. Sounds good.
Getting close to 2 hours.
Close to the random reef chat today. Hopefully we answered
lots of questions. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Yeah.
Wayne, give me a call, buddy.
Yeah.
Appreciate you stopping in.
Yep, definitely appreciate it. Lucas, Tracy, Mike, and Gino, thank you guys so much for the super chat as well. Some future coral experimentation to come. But yeah, definitely appreciate you guys, so thank you. And hopefully everyone enjoyed today. If you did, smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe. Thank Mr. Robert for coming on as always, because it's been a while. All right, guys. Have a good night. Cheers.